Hi, Susan here. Okay, let's finish this power dress, and that's what's next. Okay, if you're just tuning in for the first time, this is a series that I'm doing called Making My Professional Wardrobe, where I'm going to be making key pieces, designer dresses that were either from my collection or that I'm going to be making in front of you, that I want to use for us to get all ourselves together when all this craziness is over with the coronavirus and get some really, really good important dresses done so that you can feel empowered to go on with your career or get a new career. So I'm making these dresses, and this one is called the power dress, and this is the segment 3. This is vlog number 3, and we're going to put the zipper in and all the finishes of this dress on this segment. So if you love these dresses, you're going to have an opportunity to actually buy the patterns on my website and come along with me and make these dresses along with me for yourself. Alright, so if you haven't subscribed already, consider subscribing, and don't forget to ring the bell, guys. If you don't ring the bell, you will not get notified on all my videos when they come out. So make sure you subscribe and put the bell notification on that. All right, let's get this thing started. Let's take this off and show you what I've done so far and what we have to do next. Okay, so here I have it in the inside so you can see what's going on. I pressed the side seams, the center back seams, and I have all the darts. Either they are pressed either towards the center back or towards the center front. That's Design 101, so you guys need to know that. And I pressed this excess seam allowance downward. And we're going to be putting this metal zipper in. But I'm not going to have it exposed like the original dress. It's just going to be showing the teeth and just a little bit of that. So I'm not too worried about this being navy and this being purple. But if you watched the first episode with the Meghan Markle dress, when you put a heavy zipper like this again, you need to have some kind of interfacing. So I'm going to be putting a strip of interfacing, of my fusible interfacing like this. And I'm going to put about 1 inch of it down and straddle it in between the seam allowance like this. I'm going to continue cutting my 1 inch of the fusible interfacing and like this, so that I can press that to the seam and make it a little bit more stable when I'm actually putting that zipper in. So I'm going to do that, and I will be right back. Get a nice good steam iron on it and steam it on and make sure that it adheres. Hold it down for a few seconds, move it, hold it down for a few seconds and move it again. After you have it glued down, you can go ahead and do it without the damp cloth. I cut the 2 pieces so that I have this one going on top of it and not pushing that seam allowance down. The zipper will go up about this high, so I'm going to go ahead and put that there as well and steam it down. All right, I'll do the other side and I'll get right back. Here we are. I put the fusible interfacing there, and the zipper is going to start about 6.5 inches from the waist, so I have a pin there just to give me an indication. And I'm going to be exposing the teeth mostly, hopefully not too much of the zipper itself. So what I'm going to have to do is turn it this way and start basting it. I have a different color thread here, so I can actually see it afterwards. And I'm going to try to take the zipper and from the mesh area there, and I'm going to start basting it as close as I can. I'm gonna want to make it closer because I just want to see the teeth. So I'm just going to do a basting and just go beyond that little section where you see a stitching line. So I'm just going to go a little bit closer in like that, all the way down, just to keep that in place so that when I'm sewing it, it's not going to be too much of a problem. So that when it's sewn, it's going to be like this. It is basted, and you can see it's fairly close to the metal part of the zipper, but we can always sew it closer if I wanted to. Now I have to baste the other side. My trick is always to actually put it on the right side, turn back at the waistline so that I can make sure that the waists are going to match, and then I just go from there. That's always been my trick. So I'm going to put a pin like that. And then I'm going to open it like that, turn it to this side so that I know that is where that needs to be on that side. And now I can baste the other part of the zipper along the actual edge here as well, all the way down, just like I did the other side. So I've got my knotted thread. If you want to put a couple more pins to make sure it's in the right spot, that's fine before you start basting. Okay, and now I'm going to go ahead and start from here and go all the way down this side of the zipper as well, and try to get it as close as I can to the teeth. The best thing to do is to separate the zipper. It is a separating zipper. That's what you need for this dress. And it's going to continue going all the way down. All right, so I'm just keeping that secure there on the bottom. Let me go ahead and join the zipper. I want to check the basting. And so that's what's going to be exposed in the sewing process. And the waist is matching beautifully. And then I want to make sure that this is also going to be matching beautifully, and it does here at the neckline. All right, so we have to sew that first before we put the facing. So this is a little bit more complicated, and it's different than the original dress because the original dress had the zipper on the outside top stitch, so it's a little bit trickier on this one. All right, so now I'm going to have to stitch this down with the machine. Guys, so this has sort of thrown me for a loop. I realize that this has to be sewn differently than the original dress, but I didn't realize it had to be sewn that much more differently. It looks like the seamstress did something that is really actually not kosher. So I had to kind of take it apart and re-engineer it before I show you what we're going to do. So let me show you on the flat what we're going to do now. Okay, so it gets kind of complicated when you have the full facing, and you can see I have all the facing pieces connected. And when you try to turn it and then also clean the armhole, it gets a little tricky. It looks like what she did is she literally just turned it back and top stitched it. Which she did a beautiful job. I didn't notice that she didn't sew it and then top stitch it, but that's really not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to turn it normally when you're doing something like this, and this was, she was Argentinian, and they call it bolsa, where you are able to turn it, right side out, and everything is cleaned. The only way to do that properly would be to clean around where the zipper is, around part of the neckline, and then part of the armhole, and leaving the shoulders last, and we'll have to do that at the very end. Okay, so now I have that where I have the facing all sewn here, and the zipper is inside. So once I baste it, you'll have this nice and clean with the facing cleaning the back and the front with the teeth just showing. But because I cannot see what's going on, I literally have to baste in contrasting thread, so I can see exactly where I'm going to be sewing here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and take my needle and thread it in some white so that I can see what's going on. Once I get to where the zipper is, then I have to kind of feel where that zipper is. I'm just going to go ahead and baste this all the way up. And you know, this is a separating zipper, so this part is going to be clean, and then there's the bottom of the zipper there. That's going to be a little bulky, so it's going to be hard to sew that particular spot, but we'll have to just move that part as we go. But here is where I'm going to have to see where I stitched it in this side, so I can stitch it in the same location with the facing. So I'm actually going to have to check I'm going to check where my thread is, as you can see. So then I have a guide exactly where I stitched it on the garment. So the facing will be stitched at the same location as the garment, if that makes sense. I'm going to go ahead and baste this whole zipper area, checking as I go and making sure I'm on that stitching line. Where that stitching line is, so that when I'm stitching on this side, I will know how close I can get with that zipper. I also want to point out the end of that zipper. This end, I have to kind of pull away because I don't want to have that excess showing inside. So I'm going to kind of push it outside like that, and then continue to baste it. And here we don't have the zipper, so we're just going to have to follow a stitching line, whether it's a 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch. This is more of a 1/2 inch. And then this corner, you have to make sure it's nice and squared. And then this is a curve around the neckline, which is usually just a 1/4 inch around the neckline. So I'm going to have to take less up there. And I'm going to stop at the seam allowance line. So I'm just going to stop right where that area is right here and not stitch any further on that. Just to show you the basting, this is stitched all the way around the armhole, partly from the front and the back, all the way along the top, and then where the zipper is, all the way down. I also have it here around the back neck, leaving the shoulders again, and the shoulders again open, and then basted all the way around, leaving the shoulders open, all the way over here where the lapel is, all the way down. So now I'm going to have to stitch exactly on that line, except that it'll be a 1/4 inch around necklines and a 1/2 inch down the front. All right, I'll do that next. Okay, before we can turn this over and see what's going on, we have to clip around the armhole to the stitching like this, all the way around. And then this corner here where the lapel is has to be clipped. This side as well. And all of this basting has to come out before I can turn it over. Let's go ahead and press this now so we can see what we have actually going on now that it's been sewn. And it looks great. I'm pulling the facing that's inside as well. I'm covering with a damp cloth the top of the zipper area. I don't want any shiny areas. And I have a small hem underneath. The small curved hem underneath. If you can see underneath, I'm pulling the facing back so that it's not in the way. Zip that back up. Put the small hem there. Damp cloth. Good steam iron and press. I'm going to go back up here. The tricky part, it has to be turned. I have the pointed edge or the lapel area of this dress. But now I have to sew the shoulders together and all the hand stitching inside. So I already pressed around the neckline. Let me show you on the flat now. Now I have to join the shoulders, and this is the tricky part, and this is the part that has to be exactly right. This front shoulder has to match the back shoulder. I'm moving away the lining, and I'm just taking the self fabric or the front part of the fabric, and I'm going to be pinning that like this. And I have to make sure that that is the same width. It has to be exact. That's where it's very important. If you can see that like that. And then I'm going to just sew that together. As you can see, 1/2 inch. I'm going to do the same thing to this side. Separating the lining, the facing with the self or the front part of the fabric. And I'm going to be matching seam to seam where the 1/2 inch mark is going to be. Let's clip that random thread. And we're going to sew these two together only, like that. And I'll be right back. Hey guys, so then after I sewed that, I pressed the facing part in, because we're going to have to sew that all by hand. But as you can see, it matches perfectly on that side, and then that has to be sewn. The shoulders then have to be sewn in by hand. So there's the seam, you push in the excess, and then also where the back yoke is has to be turned up, and you have to clean part of the back armhole facing to the yoke and sew along this line here as well. I have a threaded needle, and that's what I'm going to do right now. I'm going to go inside there, and I'm just going to be sewing by hand to close up that space with the facing that's inside. So I'm just going to take both sides and stitch it like that. You can see that. Taking a little bit from each side, as little as I can, and just doing like an overcast or a whip stitch. I'm not too concerned about hiding the stitch. I'm more concerned about it being accurate. And I'll be right back. Okay, the yoke is hand sewn, the shoulders are hand sewn. Now let's get to that hem. I had it 1.5 inches, so we're going to be turning up 1.5 inches like that, and we're doing a double top stitching like that, and that's going to be folded back on this side here. So the first thing I want to do is make sure it's all straight. Then I will press up 1.5 inches, and I'll be right back. Here's the hem, the double stitch. It's turned back here. Let's try this on. There it is. There it is. The power dress is done. All right, we want this power power dress and get the pattern, you have to go on my website and the instructions will be there. And thank you for watching. Give this a thumbs up, share this video. Let everybody make their own power dress. Thank you. Bye-bye.